And why did you change from being a journalist to being an actress?
I was paying my way through school by doing commercials and things like that, and one just overtook the other. I think sometimes your life seems to choose you a little bit.
Meg Ryan's rise and disappearance is one of the most discussed transitions in Hollywood because it happened at the height of her popularity. She was not a minor star or a temporary name. For more than a decade, she was the most recognizable romantic comedy lead in the world. Audiences connected to her because she projected warmth, nervous charm, and an approachable sweetness that studios built entire movies around. Then, almost as quickly as she became a dominant figure, she stepped away. The shift was so abrupt that people assumed something drastic must have happened. But her story is a combination of career pressure, changing industry tastes, public scrutiny, and her own choices. Meg Ryan was born Margaret Mary Emily Ann Hyra in 1961 in Fairfield, Connecticut. Her childhood was shaped by her parents' divorce and a strict Catholic upbringing. She studied journalism at the University of Connecticut and later at NYU, supporting herself with commercials and modeling. Acting was not originally a goal, but she took roles to earn money. Her first consistent work came from daytime television, specifically her role on the soap opera As the World Turns. This early period taught her how to work quickly and adapt to different characters, but she remained largely unknown outside TV audiences. Her first visibility in film came from supporting roles in the early 1980s. She appeared in Rich and Famous, and then gained wider recognition after a small but memorable part in Top Gun in 1986. She still wasn't considered a major star, but she had a clear on-screen presence. The breakthrough came in 1989 with When Harry Met Sally, a film that redefined her career instantly. Her performance set a new template for romantic leads. The film became a cultural landmark, earning her a Golden Globe nomination and turning her into a household name. The studio system quickly labeled her a dependable romantic comedy lead, and this image would guide almost everything that followed. Through the 1990s, Meg Ryan became the face of the romantic comedy genre. Films like Sleepless in Seattle, City of Angels, French Kiss, You've Got Mail, and Addicted to Love made her one of the highest-paid actresses in the industry. Her collaborations with Tom Hanks were especially successful, creating some of the most iconic on-screen pairings of the decade. She became known as America's sweetheart, a term the media used repeatedly. Her appeal was based on a specific persona, wholesome, relatable, kind-hearted, and emotionally open. Studios depended heavily on that image, and audiences responded consistently. For a time, Meg Ryan was almost synonymous with mainstream romantic storytelling, but the success came with a limit. The same public image that made her famous also confined her. When she took on more serious or dramatic roles, the reception was mixed. Films like When a Man Loves a Woman and Courage Under Fire earned respect, but viewers still associated her primarily with light romantic material. As Hollywood shifted in the late 1990s, romantic comedies became less central to studio plans. The rise of action franchises, high-concept blockbusters, and youth-targeted films reduced the space for mid-budget romance films. This industry shift would have affected her career regardless of personal circumstances, but several events accelerated the change. In 2000, her marriage to Dennis Quaid ended after a long period of internal strain. The breakup became a major tabloid story, particularly because of her relationship with Russell Crowe during the filming of Proof of Life. The media framed her as the cause of the marriage collapse, even though she later stated that the relationship with Quaid had been troubled long before. This period of intense public scrutiny marked a turning point. At the same time, Proof of Life failed to perform and associated her with negative press. Her once positive public image became more complicated, and studios became cautious about banking major romantic projects on an actress surrounded by controversy. In 2003, Meg Ryan starred in The Cut, an erotic thriller directed by Jane Campion. The film contained explicit content and was a major departure from her established persona. Critics were divided, audiences were confused, and the media quickly labeled it a career-ending decision. Whether fair or not, the film made it clear that Hollywood did not see her as adaptable beyond her America's sweetheart framework. Around this time, tabloids also began focusing intensely on her changing appearance. Speculation about cosmetic procedures overshadowed her work, and discussions about her face became a recurring theme that affected public perception. Her talent was questioned less than her ability to maintain the image the industry expected. After 2004, her roles became less frequent. Films like Against the Ropes and In the Land of Women did not create significant traction. The era of big studio romantic comedies was ending, and younger actresses began taking the few opportunities that remained. Rather than fight for limited roles, Meg Ryan began stepping back. She adopted her daughter in 2006, focused on raising her family, and spent much of the late 2000s and early 2010s living outside the Hollywood spotlight. She mentioned in interviews that she wanted a giant break from acting, and she took it. Her absence from the industry was not just the result of career decline, but also personal choice. This period marks the point where the public began asking, "What the hell happened to Meg Ryan?" Because the shift felt sudden. But in reality, it was a combination of scandal fatigue, industry change, and her own decision to retreat from the intensity of fame and start exploring other areas of her life. By the time Meg Ryan stepped away from acting in the mid-2000s, the industry around her had changed so much that returning was not straightforward. Romantic comedies were no longer dominating the box office, and studios were investing in franchises, sequels, and effects-driven projects. The roles that had once defined her career barely existed anymore. At the same time, her public image had shifted from beloved actress to tabloid target. Conversations about her personal life and appearance overshadowed discussions about her work, and she became an easy headline for magazines that focused on celebrity decline. This combination of fading genre, public scrutiny, and her own desire for a quieter life kept her out of major film releases for several years. Her return to public view in the 2010s was selective. She made occasional television appearances, participated in interviews, and attended industry events, but she remained largely committed to her personal life, especially raising her 2 children. Her son Jack Quaid began building his own acting career, and Meg Ryan spent years supporting him while staying away from the pressures that had defined her earlier years. During this time, she described herself as more comfortable outside the Hollywood system, explaining that fame had become overwhelming and that stepping back allowed her to rediscover parts of herself that she never had time to understand while working nonstop. Her first major creative re-entry came in 2015 when she directed Ithaca, a modest film based on William Saroyan's novel The Human Comedy. She also appeared in a supporting role. The project was not designed as a commercial comeback, but as a learning experience, a chance to explore directing after decades of acting. The film received mixed reviews and limited distribution, but it marked an important shift. Meg Ryan was no longer chasing the spotlight. She was choosing work based on personal interest. The reaction from the public was lukewarm, but she remained largely unbothered. She had made the film on her own terms and viewed it as part of a long, creative process rather than a return to her former career. After Ithaca, Ryan's presence again became minimal as she continued focusing on family and private life. Interviews during this period revealed that she had been evaluating what kind of work would feel meaningful. She mentioned that acting had been exciting when she was younger, but as she grew older, it became less fulfilling. The demands of fame, the competition, and the constant assessment of her appearance made the industry feel restrictive. She spoke openly about enjoying a life that was quiet, slower, and centered on real personal relationships rather than Hollywood expectations. Her next significant return came in 2023 with What Happens Later, a romantic two-hander that she co-wrote, directed, and starred in alongside David Duchovny. The film was designed as an intimate conversation between two former lovers who reconnect after decades. It was a much smaller film than the rom-coms that made her famous, but intentionally so. She approached it with the understanding that she was no longer trying to recreate her 1990s image. Instead, she made a film about middle-aged love, regret, timing, and the passage of life. The reception was mixed, and the box office was modest. But Ryan reiterated that she did not measure the film's value by commercial performance. She emphasized that she simply wanted to create something personal after years of distance from acting. Her reemergence also brought renewed attention to her appearance, as always happens when she makes public appearances. The speculation about cosmetic procedures resurfaced. Throughout her career, these discussions have dominated media coverage far more than her professional accomplishments. Ryan herself has acknowledged that fame magnifies every flaw and that the pressure to remain youthful contributed to her discomfort with Hollywood. The intense scrutiny never fully faded, and it remains part of why her public reappearances are so spaced out and carefully chosen. In recent years, she has taken on selective projects rather than pursuing a full career revival. Her 2024 work on a Netflix romantic series titled Good Sex, where she plays a therapist supporting Natalie Portman's character, signaled a willingness to act again without returning to the relentless pace of the past. She continues making limited red carpet appearances, participating in interviews when promoting her projects, and maintaining a quiet presence outside the industry. Her life now revolves around her children, close friends, writing, and occasional creative work. What actually happened to Meg Ryan is not a single event, but a gradual transition. She went from being the most successful romantic comedy actress of her time to a private individual choosing when, how, and why she works. The industry moved away from the genre that made her famous. Public scrutiny damaged her relationship with fame. The fallout from personal events reshaped how studios viewed her marketability. But alongside those changes, she made a conscious choice to leave the center of Hollywood. She built a life outside the constant pressure of the spotlight and returned only when she felt the desire to create something meaningful. Meg Ryan's disappearance was not the downfall many assumed. It was a shift in priorities. She stepped away because the world she once dominated no longer aligned with who she had become. She chose privacy over stardom, family over constant attention, and selective creative work over the expectations of being America's sweetheart. Her journey is less a mystery and more a reflection of a person deciding that the cost of fame was no longer worth the reward.